Hello, hello. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Get a Grip with Kay. I'm your host, Kendall Roosing. Hope you are having a wonderful day wherever you are, that you can just pause, take a deep breath. Hopefully, you're not like mid set in a workout, then, well, I mean, you could do it then too. But driving, if you're not doing those things, close your eyes. Just, oh my gosh, as I'm saying that, I'm gonna like make myself yawn. It's been a long weekend for me personally. We had Who's Number One this weekend. I interviewed Juliana Miller this morning, which was amazing. And now I'm going to do a little personal Q&A. I put a story up on my Instagram with an Ask Me Anything, and I'm just going to pull some questions from there, literally live as they come in, which I love to do because I feel like the Instagram story goes away so fast. And if it's topics that I like to talk about that I feel like can be beneficial somehow, or it's interesting to more people than just the person that asked that question, I am here to help. So I'm going to open my phone literally, and we're going to dive right in. Today is going to be a pretty short episode. I'm going to do 3 questions of a Q&A, and we're going to go from there. And I think I might start a little new series out of this. Let me know if you guys like it later in the comments and the reviews, whatever you're watching this on or listening to this on. Let me know if you like this Q&A style, because I think it'd be really fun, and it's a really nice way to make sure you guys are getting content that is genuinely helpful, because you can ask the questions so you can direct the show. All right, so I literally just opened my Instagram story box. I won't show it to you guys because I want to keep them anonymous. If they don't want their questions, like your name attached to the question. But the first question is so good. How do you manage power struggles in coaching staff? So for those of you guys who don't know, I have 4 jiu-jitsu academies that I co-own and operate. And I think this question, I would need a little bit of clarification, but it can come in a couple of different ways. So how do I manage power struggles? 1, there's the power struggle between like management and staff. And then 2, there's power struggles between different coaches or different staff. And in a jiu-jitsu academy, I think that one of the most important things to focus on, that I would say as a management team, we have done poorly, we have done well, we've had improvements over the years, like this is something we focus on now through trial and error, is helping staff understand exactly what their roles are, and like giving defined roles for staff. Because in jiu-jitsu academies, this is pretty laid back science. Like there's not a very big science to it. There's a lot of there's not very much professionalism in the jiu-jitsu world, in martial arts studios in general. You have your outliers for sure, but for the most part, it's kind of like, oh, you like jiu-jitsu? Oh, you work part-time? Oh, you can coach some classes. Oh, here, I'll comp your membership. And oh, here, you can, your other kid can train for free and you can just teach occasionally. There's a lot of that going on. Or there's a lot of like, oh, you 3 people, you handle the class schedule, but really people don't know like who reports to who, how do you make a complaint, how do you make a request, how is the hierarchy being played out? Because in jiu-jitsu, we have the natural hierarchy of the belt system, which is one version of hierarchy, which is built into martial arts. You don't want to take that away and say it doesn't matter. But at the same time, just because a black belt and a purple belt are on the mat doesn't necessarily mean that a black belt is a better coach or has more leadership skills than a purple belt, for example, who has been coaching for multiple years and has really honed in on improving their craft. So I think a couple of things as far as struggles between different staff members is doing your best from the top level to have open communication style, meaning going to staff members and asking how they're doing, genuinely wanting to know like what's going on. How is your relationship with this other person? How is your relationship with the students? Are you happy at what's your overall performance level? Not like your what's your overall rating, not just in your performance level, but in your happiness level. So we have like check-ins that we do with our staff where we'll ask them to rate, there's a couple different things. I won't remember them all, but one is your overall happiness level, like your satisfaction currently at your job. And then based on that number, we ask them like, okay, well, how do we get closer to a 10? Because our goal is to have everybody that works for us be at a 10 out of 10, if possible, most days of the week, right? That makes for happier staff, that makes for happier students, it makes for happier management. And also that's what we're looking for like positive environments. So we want people who want to be there. So how can we assist with that and help this be a place you want to be? So we have this open communication style where they're also not put down, or they're like, we don't hold it against them if there is something negative, because that's being human, or if they do mess up, or if they're unhappy with someone. So open communication, then we encourage them to have that open communication with each other and to bring stuff to us if needed. So the thing is that, like, we over the years have had staff that they're not each other's biggest fans. But for the most part, we encourage them, look, you don't have to be best friends with all of these people outside of the gym. But when you're here, like, the students deserve a positive, uplifting environment. That's our job as instructors, as coaches, as people in a very delicate leadership positions. This is not just clock in, clock out. You never see anybody. This is not just customer service. This is people's place that they come to express themselves, to leave the drama at the door behind, to work on, like, they're in a very delicate environment where there's a lot of humility going on. They're getting tapped out. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of projection onto you as a leader. They're looking up to who you are. So with all of that to be said, like, I believe that if you work in a martial arts environment, you are held, should be held to a pretty high standard. So even if someone you're working with is not your favorite person in the world, the mutual goal between two people, and obviously management has this goal as well, in my opinion, should be, how can we create a cohesive relationship where we can benefit the students to the best of our ability and also benefit each other and make each other's lives better inside the workplace? How can we come to that agreement? So I don't have a perfect science for it, but it comes down most of the time to communication, calling our guys and girls, letting them know we are available to be called, having regular meetings, checking in on these kinds of things. I think one of the biggest mistakes that martial arts academy owners, and I know the person who asked this question as an owner, can make is trying to step too out of the process of the day to day. And we have had our own experience with that. With, I think when you're growing and scaling companies, there's you kind of oscillate between how much do I delegate, how much do I take back control of, how much do I micromanage, how much do I step back and let my people do their thing because they're smart and they're capable and they're intelligent. But also, I know that at the end of the day, I care more about the success of the business than any of the employees, because if they're not on the path to ownership yet, and that's a whole other conversation depending on how long they've been working with us and something like that. Of course, at the end of the day, we have the most experience and we care the most. So there are certain things where I should step in and do those things. So I think that balance is difficult. But so the coaching between multiple people, like as far as the dynamic and the power struggles between coaches, I think as long as there's an approach of love and, hey, we are here in a pretty high stakes scenario where we are leading people through a very sensitive transformation. It's intimate, it's a combat sport, we're dealing with child development, all of these things. We've got to be able to get on the same page and have a very certain standard that we can hold ourselves to. And then if people are not able to do that, then at some point you have to make a decision if they're a good fit for the team, because for us, we have to prioritize the team as a whole rather than individuals. And ideally, individuals are on the same team, right? We build that cohesiveness together. But at the end of the day, if we're doing our best to foster that environment and someone is not contributing to that after, long periods of time of trial and error and trying to improve it, unfortunately, then sometimes that decision has to be made too. As far as power struggles between staff and owners, that's maybe, I don't know which version of the question you were asking, but if that's the question, then I think it's almost the same exact answer. Like, coming down to genuine communication and care for the people that work for us. Like, hey, what are your actual goals? What are your actual dreams? Like, or, I view a lot of things as an experiment. So we have people that are on the team that are in a certain position. It's like, hey, let's experiment with this. Let's try this. Let's see if this works for your strengths. And then, we check in a couple months later and, like, is this something that you want to continue doing? Do you want to shift it this way? Oh, I had this idea, but you thought something different. Okay, cool. So, I mean, it's an ecosystem, right? The workplace is an ecosystem, and the martial arts industry is a very intimate ecosystem to be working in. But I think genuinely, when you care deeply about the success of the people who work for you and creating more opportunity for them, they can feel that and they want to stick around and they want to do a good job and they want to have a cohesive environment where, they're supporting the success of the students, they're supporting the success of the gym. And if you are working for them as an owner, I believe our job is to work for the people who work for us rather than only viewing it the other way around. Then ideally the right people are going to feel that and they're going to want to work to make your life better too. So very, like, I feel like that question could go in a lot of different directions. But tangibly, having one-on-one meetings with staff, having standards that you talk about amongst the entire staff, and having everyone know, like, we've got to know what the vision is and, like, what the goals are to see if we can all get aligned on the same road and drive along the same path to get there. If we don't have a very defined sense of where we're trying to get to, then I think that's where a lot of the power struggles come in, because then an individual is focused on what their personal gain in, what their, best way of teaching a class is, their best kids games, whatever, rather than, hey, we're on the same team, we have the same goal. So I think defining goals, and that's our job from the top down, if you are working in management or in ownership, is to set the vision and then live your life accordingly, so that you're leading by example, so that people want to be on that battlefield with you, rather than, feeling like they have to do it all themselves. And then they're like, well, the owner doesn't really care that much about this. Why am I even busting my ass to make this happen? So, all right. Way to fire us off with a good first question. So, next question is, will you compete at ADCC this year? This is a big question that I've been getting asked a lot. And I actually had a good conversation with Mo at the ADCC Open in Long Beach at the Pyramid. So I'm very excited that as of right now, yes, the plan is to compete at ADCC. It's kind of the only thing that I put on my schedule this year as far as must do. And honestly, I was talking to a couple different organizations about super fights for the year. And it was an interesting thing, because after Nogi Worlds in December, right before that was Polaris. Those were my two events coming back after this injury from ADCC, where I was out for over 14 months of competition. Polaris was amazing. Nogi Worlds was amazing. Beautiful, beautiful experiences. And I immediately felt like I was kind of back in the saddle of, I need to compete as much as possible on any given day. I need to be training for something. I need to be very specific about my goals. And honestly, after having like multiple conversations with people that are really close to me in my life, my mom being one of them, my partner, multiple people, different coaches, and mentors, it was just like, hold on a second. I have always been the girl that was very driven, like a fucking freight train. Like, I make this goal, I have this thing, and nothing can change it, and no one can tell me any differently, and I'm going to get it, and I will not stop, and I have blinders on. Like, my mom always calls me a freight train, and people in my life know that that's how I operate. And the people who love me, luckily I have so many wonderful people who love me, they support that because they know it's important to me. But anyway, I had a lot of conversations this year in the beginning of the year when I was trying to think about a couple different shows, and I just kind of felt like it wasn't working out. Like, the negotiations weren't going well. It felt forced. It felt, I honestly didn't feel that excited during the negotiations. I didn't feel that, huge pull. And instead of forcing it, I felt like, God, universe, whatever you want to call it. I use the word God because honestly, it's simple and it feels like resonant with me. Is that the right way to use resonant? I think so. It feels like it resonates with me. And I felt like there was this push to just pause, just wait. And I think oftentimes when things don't work out, it really is a gift for us to have a pause and a wait and a slow down and an ability to be curious and to sit in the unknown of what might happen and to not have it decided and not have it all figured out. And there is, risk in that, because we can get lost in the sauce of like, woo, no, I don't have any goals. It doesn't matter. Life's going to be what it's going to be. But I think as someone who is more, driven, put too much on her plate, have it all figured out, be, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, know exactly what the purpose is, there's a lot of value in allowing space for the unknown and for the silent. Because for me, that a lot of times is when I can start to hear my intuition. It's when my creative energy returns. It's when stuff comes to the surface that is too quiet to hear, when things are really noisy and loud, and I'm driving to practice and Drake is blasting and I'm making a post and I'm doing an interview and I'm lifting in the gym. Like, that quiet voice doesn't necessarily get to come through. And for me, that's the power of meditation. It's the power of prayer. But it's also the power of slowing down. So it's been an interesting time, because I really decided, after some of these things didn't work out in January when I was in these negotiations, to slow down. And now I'm in this space coming into February where I'm like, well, what if I could just be curious about this? What if I didn't have to know? And I see that as far as competition goes. I see that in career in a lot of ways. I see that with some new fun, exciting career choices I'm trying to go into, which I'll be probably talking about soon. I just haven't felt the courage to talk about them yet, to be quite honest. So stuff is coming soon, but I just kind of, ADCC is out there. It's in August. It's just so funny because I thought it was in September and I was planning seminars for the year and I was putting things in like June and July. And then I actually had to move my schedule because I was like, wait, ADCC is in August. I don't want to be traveling in July. So anyway, that's the one thing on. If something pops up before then that it is a perfect fit, that feels amazing, that feels right to me in my bones, then I will go for it because that's me and I follow my heart. But at the moment, I allowed my heart to be more explorative. I don't know which. It's exploring what it wants. And right now, it's been fun to book a lot of seminars, to be really active in that, to say yes to anything interviewing and commentating that I wanted to do, and also to make a big move, which I'll talk about soon, that I'm very excited about. I wouldn't necessarily be committing to moving, to the project of moving, if I were to be in competition mode, because it's hard to do that chaotic thing in the middle of competition. So there's a lot of stuff that's opened up in my heart as a result of slowing down in competition by choice this time. It's never really been by choice. It's always been by force because of injuries. And I believe those are gifts too, because it's helped me practice. What does my identity feel like without competing and without that always being at the top of the list? What else can I develop, in the meantime? So I was forced to practice that. And now it feels like I have the choice to practice that. And it's a different kind of freedom. And I'm very excited because I think this is one of the biggest times in my life that I've actually felt free, like I can choose. And I think, for anybody listening who feels stuck in a very certain path or feels trapped in that, like sometimes we don't necessarily realize that pressure is feeling negative or trapped or closed or tight in our body because we're moving so fast that we are not slowing down enough to feel that tightness. And for anybody who may be feeling that, it's like, what if we just did this thought experiment of what would I do if I could do anything? No one's going to make you follow the answer, and you don't even have to tell anybody. But it's funny, my mom, I talk about her a lot because she has a PhD in Jungian psychologist. She is responsible for a lot of these thought experiments that I do and a lot of the language that I'm familiar with when describing personal development and this kind of experimentation, because that's kind of a famous question to her. It's so funny, she asks our staff this question too, like, if you could do anything, what would it be? And it's just an experiment. And so for me, for many years, it was like compete and win and be the most winningest American jiu-jitsu fighter of all time, be all these things. And now the question is a little bit more of like, or the answer is a little bit more of like, I don't know, maybe this, maybe that, maybe this. And I think because this is the first time in my life that has felt very true, more than others, I would say, like with more intensity, that's felt very true. And I have the humility to recognize that and to take a step back and feel the fear or uncertainty or anxiety that comes up in the not knowing, and then be able to feel it anyway and just let it stay and let it sit with me. Like I literally, I was talking to my therapist the other day and I was like, I think at least for 1 month, I'm not going to decide if I have to compete for the rest of the year. And it's so funny because for a lot of people that sounds really normal, but for me, it's such a big part of my career that would be foreign to me. I never saw myself sitting here at 26 years old, allowing myself to be uncertain about my goals, and never before. And so it's so funny, like last week I was like going to a Pilates class, and then I did a hot yoga class, and I'm doing it because I don't really, quote unquote, have to train. I don't have to win a certain tournament. And who knows what will happen with that. But I think I still love jiu-jitsu, but allowing my energy to just settle into the unknown, I think allows things to feel like freedom of choice in a new way. So with all that to be said, I absolutely do plan on competing in ADCC. But there's nothing else on this schedule that is a must do for me. And if for some crazy reason ADCC didn't work out this year, I mean, that's like TBD. I want to knock on wood. Like, I'm not claiming that. I'm not asking for that. But ADCC is something that feels closer to my heart than almost anything else in the grappling world. And I think that's why I still feel that draw to it. Nogi Worlds felt very, very special. So I wouldn't be surprised if that jumps on my schedule for December later this year. But yes, as of right now, planning on doing it. And if anything else comes up that's like a dream come true, I will. But the truth is that I'm at the point in my life where I want things to feel like a dream come true for me to do them. And there's a lot of stuff that's been offered and put on the table that didn't feel like that. And I said no to it. I said no to the money, no to the opportunity, no to the attention. And I don't always do that perfectly, but I'm trying to practice with it, and it's feeling really good. So, but thank you for asking. I get a lot of questions about ADCC, and yes, that is my plan right now, to do that. Having that, I wouldn't even say having that title. Yes, I want the title, but more than that, I want the experience. Like having the experience of being there in a T-Mobile Arena is something that my heart feels excited about right now today. So that makes me happy. And if it makes me happy, I'm going to go for it. But it's so funny. Like, oh yeah, February, gave myself the month to just live my life and live my life healthily, because I had to not be on the mats that much when I was injured, but now I can. And so it's like, well, I'm healthy, I'm capable, I'm able, I'm doing a lot of work stuff that I'm excited about. Life is good. I'm in love. Like, I love my family. Like everything is, it's not perfect all the time, but things are great. And if I'm in that space and I get freedom, like we'll see what happens. And I'm curious to see what this version of Kendall decides to do with her freedom. Okay. Last and final question. We got a lot in here. We got a lot. Favorite brands of leggings that are high waisted and don't roll down for Nogi. That won't be the third question, but you guys know I'm always wearing the Scramble Hearts high waisted leggings. I'm just going to put another plug in for those, mostly because I helped design them. So I swear to God, they're actually perfect for female athletes. I wear them to lift. I wear them under my hoodies because they look cute and my butt looks nice in them. They don't move at the waist and they're just perfect. They're not see through, they're squat proof, they're seamless, they're amazing. So definitely those. Okay, here's a good question. There's some naughty questions in there too. I won't be answering. Here's a third question. So the question is, how do you feel like you balance your feminine and masculine energy in a world like, I'm going to expand on this question because they did like a short version of it because it fits in the box. But in a world where, you're in a combat sport, it's male dominated field, and I would also add on to this question, not that this person would know that, but like even in my relationship, I have a partner who his world is very male dominated, of course. And I love to be in his world because we share lifting, we share jujitsu. I've been doing really other fun activities like golfing and stuff lately together. So he's very business minded, or business focused. So like very masculine. So in this masculine world, how do I balance my masculine and feminine energy? So I think the question that I just answered a minute ago kind of speaks to my evolution in that, because I didn't always know how to tap into my feminine. And I think that there's so much stuff on social media and Instagram, especially, and TikTok right now about feminine energy and about, how important it is to be a passenger princess and how I just want to turn my brain off when I'm with my man and like, because he's so masculine and all these things. And then there's also, like feminine women in business and in leadership. And I think that for me, it's easy to get washed up. It's easy, hopefully that's not a Freudian slip. It's easy for me to get wrapped up in this idea of needing to swing to the other end of the pendulum because I am in such a masculine state for so long. And then I need to swing all the way to be feminine and not be masculine anymore, because that is what, it's like everything swings. Political stuff swings, feminism stuff, like everything swings, right? So I have had my own experiences swinging to feel like I only need to be feminine. I was like, I don't want to be fucking masculine anymore. Just being feminine. I just want to, do my hair and paint my nails. And I'm not going to have any structure or schedule my day because I want to flow and I want to decide what I need to do and when I need to do it on the fly. And I think that's natural to have that extreme. When I lived in such a rigid space in my mind, I'm not saying my life was rigid, but I felt like I created this rigid space for so long. Like I had to do, perform, earn value, earn respect, earn attention, all of these kinds of things, earn money. So being in that, like, hold structure, be stable, your emotions can't be a part of this right now because they get in the way. So going from that end, it's natural that I bounce to the other extreme. But I think where I'm at now, and I feel very grateful to be here, is I really respect and value and honor both my masculine and my feminine energy and what they bring to the table. I believe we all have both, right? Like every human being has both. But, there are certain spaces where I feel like I have a very even balance. And then there are certain spaces where I feel that I have more of an extreme. So for example, in a partnership where I have a partner who's extremely in his masculine in a very healthy, beautiful, stable, grounded way, I naturally fall into being extremely feminine and like really enjoying that. And I think that that is, a really fun way to play with polarity. But it doesn't mean that when he goes away, I stay there, right? Or that like if something were to happen to him, like it's even funny to say happen to him, but like say for example, there's this classic version or this classic example that people say about like men choosing restaurants, right? So like a woman doesn't want to choose, like quote unquote in videos, right? A woman doesn't want to have to choose what she needs to do because, or what she wants to do, because a man should just choose it and have it all done and blah, blah, blah. And he should choose the restaurant, he should choose the time to. So yes, in my relationship, that's like oftentimes how things play out. Like I can make like I have desires, obviously, but if I don't want to have to plan, I don't plan. I don't do any of that shit. However, when I like go out with my sister or say like Chris gets tied up with something and it just makes more sense for me to figure something out, like I respect and love that my masculine side needs to step in. Like it's just being human. Like I don't want to get so tied to the identity of like I am only a feminine woman that I don't respect and love my masculine energy coming into play. So it's so funny. Like my sister and I will go out and I almost feel this like kind of like it's a humorous thing of like, oh, I'm not with my boyfriend anymore. Like I have to make decisions or I have to drive or like little things like that. And it's just like it's a cute recognition of the both that live in me. So going away from relationships and into work, I am self-employed in many ways. I own multiple businesses, like which roles? Okay, so I own multiple businesses that are like brick and mortar Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academies. I have my online coaching business, Jiu-Jitsu Accelerator. I have different projects like podcasting, interviewing, commentating, and then of course I'm an athlete. So I don't really have anyone that tells me what I have to do all the time. So for me, I know that my masculine energy that supports me, that is grounded, is loving, it shows up in, hey, you need to plan when you're going to work out on which days this week so that you have that plugged in. Hey, you need to make a structure for holding yourself accountable to having a morning routine wherein in that hour and a half, you can do whatever the fuck you want. Like for me, that's the feminine flow of like, I want to meditate. Nah, I want to read. Nah, I want to go make my coffee. No, I want to, journal. Like I can flow. I can do whatever. Like I follow my heart. I'll sit and I'll sit in that silent space and just like, God, please direct my action. Like, please direct my feet, my hands, my mouth. Like, please direct my thoughts. And for me, that is in a very feminine space, flow, creative energy. But my masculine energy set up that space, gave me the structure, gave me the command to be there and make room for my feminine to be able to come through. Because when I don't give myself structure or I don't have the tenacity that comes with, sometimes that masculine force comes through and it's like, no, we need to get our shit together. We need to do this. You have 2 hours. You got to meet this fucking deadline. Like people are counting out, like you got to, that pressure that comes in. I love knowing that that exists in me because if my flow and feelings and emotion, while as beautiful and intelligent and brilliant as they are, if they ran the show 24/7, I wouldn't feel very safe within myself because my structure sets up a beautiful space of safety for me to have that freedom of expression and flow and creativity. So it's like for me, my masculine personally is the container and my feminine gets to be the flow. And it sounds very figured out and perfect. And the truth is it doesn't always feel like that. Sometimes, it's like the yin yang sign, like one gets bigger and the other gets smaller. And it's like, hey, wait, I want to talk too. And then the other one gets bigger and it swings back and forth. So I can oscillate between the two, but I try my best to have a strong balance between the two and just to zoom out and have my eyes open to it. So even if I am more in my masculine or working really hard on a project and I'm feeling myself getting stressed out, and because it doesn't feel like a natural balance to me, then I can slow back and say, hey, baby, like, what do we need? Let's slow down here. Like, let's, go within. Let's tap into this intuition, into God that we have been ignoring because we've been in do mode. So neither are evil, neither are bad. They're both beautiful, wonderful spaces to be. And I think going to the extremes teaches me the importance and the value of the opposite oftentimes. And the one getting bigger makes the other feel not necessarily just, important or like I don't just open my eyes to it again, but it also shows me in new ways how it can show up because I'm very in touch with my needs and what they are, right? I try to be anyway. So I like using the example of like masculine and feminine between myself and then also masculine and feminine energy with relationships and other people, because it's not just with my partner, it's with our male staff. Like our male staff bring a strong masculine presence that I really genuinely appreciate. I believe I do a great job of being in a leadership position with feminine energy that also brings masculine energy to the table. But I highly value both our men and our women on our team for what they bring in the same way, right? Or, my relationship with my family members, my friends, Chris's friends, like having, strong masculine figures in my life is something that I value a lot for what they bring to the table. And my women who allow for such a safe, open space and container for my feminine to flow freely and be seen and felt and understood. I just think, like, if you think about the relationships in your life, like my women in my life provide a beautiful opportunity because sometimes I get to step into my masculine for them and be, a different container for them. Sometimes they do the same for me. Sometimes us turning up our feminine in other ways is what is needed. And I think if you have conscious, beautiful friendships where you can talk about these things and you can really intuitively like feel these things and the needs that you guys have, it can be just such a beautiful place to blossom and have freedom of expression, and to be held, by your people. And then men, same, like I love what the men in my life bring to the table for the same reason and what they provide. So, going back to the original question, how do you balance masculine and feminine energy? I do my best. I do my best to recognize and value each one. And the unity that I have within me, like I get to have both. We don't have to choose just one. And I choose to not only be in spaces where I feel like I can step into one or the other, but also to make sure for me, I'm allowing myself to step into one or the other and knowing what that feels like and looks like, so that when I go into an environment like yesterday, who's number one, for example, like when I step into a work environment where I'm interviewing and commentating, there's a balance of both there. Like I need to be able to hold space and the structure for what I'm doing and running the show. I need to be accountable. I need to be professional. I need to I need the athletes to feel like they can count on me to run the show and the cadence, and they know where to look, they know how to come to me, they know when the interview's over, all these kinds of things that seem like they just happen automatically, but that truly is like me setting the structure. But then also I believe I have such a great power as an interview, being able to tap into the emotional experience that they're having, not only as an athlete but also as a woman, like what's going on there, and ask those questions, because I feel like my job as an interviewer is simply just to help them shine more than they already are as athletes. And so that's a perfect example of like, because I respect both my masculine and feminine energy within myself, I can use both of those things and the union of the two to show up and do a better job in my life, whether that's an actual job, whether that's talking on a podcast, like for example, actually, or I was gonna say in relationships, at work, different things. But I was gonna say like this podcast is a perfect example of, I didn't feel like filming because I'm tired today. It's been a long weekend, but I was like, you know what, you already have the setup. You interviewed Juliana this morning. Like why don't you just let yourself do this? You're going to be happy you did it later. I gave myself like, 20 minutes to scroll on social media. Like I set up all the structure for myself to like, quote unquote, make myself or force myself to do it. But then I felt so supported and held by that because I started talking. I'm like, no, I love this. This is my creative outlet. This is my creative expression. I get to connect with people this way. So anyway, is it a perfect balance? Do I have a perfect equation? Absolutely not. But I think the striving to know and appreciate and love both of those spaces within ourselves. And even the version I gave is quite narrow. I use the word structure and power a lot. There's a lot more to energy dynamics, but it's what's on my mind today with what's going on with me. But I think, in the jiu-jitsu world, for all the ladies out there listening, you can be both. You don't have to choose. Now, there's pros and cons. Like there will maybe sometimes be negative things that come at you by being more feminine inside jiu-jitsu. But for me, I'm willing to deal with that because I want to be in the truest expression of myself possible. And sometimes I still forget and I go against my own wishes in those areas, but I'm doing my best to remember. I think my goal is just to remember as often as possible and make the periods of forgetting shorter. So I'm stringing rememberingness together more and more over longer periods of time. Q&A, baby. We got 3 out of 3 questions. And I'll answer some more on my Instagram story. But the podcast heard them first. The podcast got the long answers. And I just want to thank you guys so much for being here for this kind of content. If you guys want more Q&A stuff, please leave it in the comments. Send me a message. Put it in the, what is it? Yeah, the review. Like, put any questions you guys have in there, and I can choose Q&A there from there too. But I would love to be able to jam on whatever you guys feel is valuable or helpful. Any way I can help you at all, like as tangible as you want to get, or airy fairy, or more out there, more emotional speak, like I woo woo, like we did a little bit of both today. So please share this podcast episode if it brought you any value at all. Let me know what you thought. Like, I want to hear. And I love the idea that I can grow this podcast so I can get really cool people on, and also just so that I can bring more value in any way possible. It's a really fun creative outlet for me. So I appreciate y'all being here. And I know I said this at the beginning, but if you didn't take a deep breath then, I sincerely hope you can take one now and just slow down, sink into your heart, and know that you and we are truly exactly where we need to be today. Exactly. And I had a hard day today, to be honest with you guys. I really did. I had some moments where I was really like, I'm uncomfortable, I'm not like whatever. There's just a lot going on for me right now. And I still choose to believe I'm exactly where I need to be, because I have proof. If you look back on your life, you've survived every single hardest day you've ever had. And you're who you are as a culmination of every single day you've had leading up until right now. So there are no mistakes. You're exactly where you need to be. And I believe that to be true for me. And I'm just relaxing even into saying that to you, because I'm saying it to me too. So I love you. I wish I could give you a big hug. And it was so beautiful seeing some of you guys at Who's Number One this past weekend and seeing your beautiful faces. And I love you. I love you, love you, love you. Thank you for being here. And I'll catch you in the next episode.